Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different, a little darker. We're breaking down 3 real-world case studies, straight from first-hand accounts, to figure out the exact psychological mechanics of fear during the witching hour. You know the feeling, right? We're going to look at exactly how our brains process terror when the safety blanket of daylight is completely stripped away. Actually, I want you to start by asking yourself this. Why is the dead of night so terrifying? Really think about it for a second. A familiar street, or heck, even your own living room, it just feels completely different at 2 a.m. than it does at 2 p.m., doesn't it? Our psychology totally shifts when we're isolated in the dark. The mundane world just kind of falls away, and suddenly our primal instincts take the wheel. So we're going to explore exactly why that happens by digging into 3 distinct, honestly terrifying late-night encounters. All right, let's jump right into case 1, the farmhouse. So our subject here is this super capable 40-year veteran welder. He's living completely isolated on this massive farm, and it's just him and his dog, Bosley. His wife, Maria, tragically passed away, which, as you'll see, makes the escalation of these events so much more chilling. Look at how the tension builds. It doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow, agonizing drip of anomalies. First, while out walking Bosley, the guy spots a shadow in his late wife's second-story bedroom window, a room he literally hasn't stepped foot in for years. Then, the next night, he hears creaking footsteps directly above his master bedroom. By the 3rd night, he comes downstairs in the morning to find the kitchen lights mysteriously turned on. He even calls the cops, but of course, they find nothing. And the whole nightmare culminates with a literal silhouette of a woman standing out in his moonlit yard, just watching him. But the absolute peak of this terror actually happens inside the house. After nights of just crushing paranoia, he finally forces himself to go upstairs and check his late wife's empty bedroom. There were clothes scattered all over the floor, Maria's clothes. Imagine the pure, ice-cold horror of that realization. He had packed those clothes away after she died. And standing right there, right in the doorway, was a strange, shorter woman, staring right back at him. Okay. So the exact psychological trigger that makes this encounter so deeply disturbing to the human brain is something we call a sanctuary violation. This wasn't just a basic break-in, it's an infiltration of a space associated with ultimate safety, and in this case, deep personal grief. That stranger didn't just trespass on his farm, she went in and unpacked the belongings of his deceased wife. It completely and utterly shatters any foundational sense of security you have. Moving on to case 2, the preserve. Now, this next case pivots away from a home invasion and shines a light on the terrifying reality of human predators out in the wild. It perfectly and terrifyingly illustrates the timeline of how a late-night food craving can turn into an absolute nightmare. Our subject is a catering driver heading home late. At 2 a.m., he hits a McDonald's drive-thru, just craving some fries. While there, he notices this beat-up Volkswagen with tinted windows backed into a dark, shadowy corner of the lot. Nothing too crazy, right? At 2:15 a.m., he drives over to a local, closed nature preserve to eat and check out the scenic city view. But then, at 2:25 a.m., headlights pull up. It's the exact same tinted Volkswagen. And suddenly, 4 men step out of the car, all their doors opening at the exact same time. So the crucial point to remember is this number right here, 4. Thankfully, the driver had called a friend, Sebastian, to meet him up there. As they're sitting there eating, 3 guys approach them. They're acting pseudo-friendly, passing a blunt around, but wearing these really intimidating expressions. They ask if the driver and his friend want to smoke, but our driver's situational awareness immediately kicks in. He remembers that 4 men exited that car. He realizes one is missing, and as they glance over into the dark trees along the path, they spot the 4th man hiding in the pitch black, holding some sort of unrecognizable object in his hand. The absolute second he realizes he's been spotted, he starts rushing toward them, kicking off a terrifying sprint back to their cars. The next day, though, reveals this terrifying contrast. The driver and his friend actually go back to that McDonald's with a sneaky photo they managed to snap to report the weird encounter. The setup they were fed by the guys on the mountain was that they were just friendly workers relaxing in their uniforms after a late shift. But the reality? A manager at the restaurant reveals that the ringleader was actually a fired, highly unhinged ex-employee who had been relentlessly stalking a former female coworker who dumped him. He was illegally camping out in the McDonald's parking lot, actively violating a restraining order. And for whatever terrifying reason, he and his crew decided to follow our completely innocent driver into the pitch-black woods that night. Let's look at our final file, Case 3, the church. This case takes us to 1980 Elmwood Avenue in Narberth, Pennsylvania. 6 teenagers are about to discover the extreme dangers of urban exploration. Picture this. They hop an 8-foot chain link fence to drink in a boarded-up church on a freezing fall night. Once they get inside, the atmosphere is just instantly unsettling. The entire first floor has had its floorboards ripped out. There's nothing but a dirt floor, and this gaping hole in the center with concrete stairs leading down. So, they go down into a dark, 3-room basement to hang out. And then, out of nowhere, bam! An incredibly loud, heavy door slams shut. It is so violently loud that 3 of the teenagers don't even hesitate. They immediately sprint up the stairs and flee, literally splitting the group right down the middle.
Now, the remaining 3 teenagers, brave, or, maybe just foolish, decide to investigate the room where the door slammed. Inside, they find a dresser with a cracked mirror, and smeared all across the glass are these weird red stains. At first, they try to rationalize it, thinking, oh, it's just old paint. But as this harrowing quote points out, the stains still had that sticky sheen to them. Whatever it was wet, it was fresh. And sitting right next to it was this super unsettling black and white photo of a smiling woman in a wedding dress. And right then, they hear another noise coming from the room they had just left.
Yeah, they smartly decide they've had enough and absolutely bolt. But the horror doesn't end in the basement. As those final 3 teens scramble out of the church and hop back over the chain link fence, one of them turns around. Standing right there, perfectly framed in the exact open window they used to sneak inside, is a dark human silhouette just watching them leave. They were never alone in that building. All right, let's break this down. The anatomy of fear, shattering normalcy. So what's the common thread here? What connects the farmhouse, the preserve, and the church? Well, the core psychological truth is this. The true horror in these cases, it doesn't come from supernatural ghosts or movie monsters. It comes entirely from the sudden shatter of normalcy. Whether you're doing something as mundane as walking your dog on your own property, eating late-night fries in your car, or just hanging out with your friends on a weekend, absolute terror strikes when the predictable, everyday world suddenly breaks its own rules and violently shifts into a full-blown fight-or-flight scenario. But, fortunately, we can actually map out the mechanics of survival based on what kept the people in these exact case studies alive. Step 1, notice the anomaly immediately. The catering driver realized there were 4 men, not 3. The teens noticed the stains were wet, not dry. Step 2, create physical distance from the threat. Notice how in every single case, when the threat revealed itself, they ran. They didn't stick around to negotiate or figure it out. And step 3, seek safety in numbers or trusted allies. The driver calling his friend Sebastian altered the predator's dynamic just enough to save him. The welder relying on his trusted dog Bosley gave him those crucial early warning alarms. And that brings us to our conclusion. Trust your gut instincts. The overarching lesson across all these terrifying midnight encounters is to trust your gut, what security experts often call the gift of fear. Seriously, if a situation feels wrong, your brain is processing danger way faster than your conscious mind can even comprehend. Do not ignore it. I want to leave you with this final kind of provocative thought. It's really easy to analyze these situations during the day, right? Sitting safely behind a bright screen. But imagine your house, completely silent, hours from dawn. Tonight, if you hear a sudden, heavy creak on the stairs, will you go check? Thanks for exploring these psychological depths with me on this explainer. Stay safe out there.